Hey everyone! Today we are going to officially begin our unit on opinion writing. So, when we typically do opinion writing, we are not just writing about our opinions. You will try to write opinions in the most convincing way possible. So you're trying to convince somebody when we're doing opinion writing. And I know we've all done opinion writing before, so it's nothing new to us. You will start the unit by studying how to write speeches. Today, we will work together to plan a speech that each of you will then write in your own way. Speech writing is actually a kind of opinion writing. The writer or speaker puts out an opinion and then gives reasons, details, and examples that support that opinion. The tricky part is choosing reasons that will convince the audience. So whenever you're writing about your opinion, you are always trying to convince somebody. You're trying to convince someone that your opinion is the right opinion. And that's why we try to get really passionate about these things. So I know that I've heard a lot of you say throughout the year that you wish our classroom could have air conditioning because it gets hot when the weather gets warmer. And we all know that that's a fact. Even I wish that we had air conditioning. What other wishes do you have for our classroom? So I was thinking that we could write a speech to give to Mrs. Bunden, trying to convince her that we need air conditioning in our classroom and really the whole school, because it wouldn't necessarily be fair if only our classroom were the ones to get air conditioning. We want Mrs. K's classroom to have it. We want our classroom. We want everybody's classroom to have it. So when I get started, after I name my opinion, I have to name the reasons. It's so important to name a few reasons, because if you were to just put, "It would be awesome," that would not convince our principal or really anybody. So please don't put that stuff for your answers, guys, for your reasons, I mean. It is important to add details so that you can convince your reader. Remember I said, opinion writing is all about trying to convince that reader. So now we're going to name the reasons. So I'm going to show you the opinion, and then I'm going to show you our 3 reasons to support that opinion. My opinion: we need air conditioning in every classroom in our school. Reason 1, air conditioning creates better air quality for the classroom. Reason 2, students get distracted when it is very hot, which makes it hard to focus. Reason 3, some parents choose to not send their child to school when it's too hot, so then absences happen a lot when it's warm out, and we never want anyone to be absent. So after we name our opinion, we figured that out, then we listed our 3 reasons that make the most sense to us. Now it's really time for us to expand on that, you guys. So since we're not in the classroom, we decided that maybe you guys could just put together a letter, and then hopefully we could get these letters to Mrs. Bunden as long as they're super convincing. And since we have this time off, and we can give them to her and she can read them, and maybe our ideas could really convince her to get air conditioning. So we'll have to see. So I looked back at my first reason right here. Air conditioning creates better air quality for the classroom. So after we pick that reason, we need to expand on it and say why. You know, I can say that, but if I don't say why, I'm not providing the evidence that is needed in opinion writing to convince somebody. So I created a little letter to send Mrs. Bunden's way. So we have, "Dear Mrs. Bunden, we need air conditioning in our school because air conditioning creates better air quality for the classroom." So boom, I started off with my first reason in my first sentence. Now I'm going to explain that a little bit more. It filters the air and clears toxins from the environment. This gives students and staff better health. Air conditioning can also help students and staff that have allergy problems. Our students and staff deserve to have the best air quality. That is why I believe we need air conditioning in our school. Sincerely, Miss Maczella. So, we've made it this far. I told my opinion, which is my thesis. That's what we call it. That's the fancy, schmancy word that we like to call for that very topic sentence, that idea. So, my thesis. I gave 3 reasons to support my thesis. Those reasons are huge. Make sure that they are true and that they could really convince somebody. And then I talked about one of my reasons during this lesson and said more. So I just expanded on one of those reasons because we would not have time to get through all of those in this one lesson. So now your job is to think of one reason you might give to Mrs. Bundon that would convince her. So you want to say to yourself, we need blank because, so you want to get that thinking going. Then, in your mind, fill in a reason that will convince our principal. Okay, so now we're going to get to work. This is your turn. You're going to take everything that we just learned and write a letter to Mrs. Bundon. You can choose one of my reasons and write more about that, or you can create your own. So I put the reasons down here so we can look at these again. So just like I started off my letter, which we'll go back to that so I can show you as an example again. I took that, my first reason, I put that sentence, that first, this one right here, my thesis, into that first line in my letter. So I know that we've talked about writing a speech. So since we can't perform and write the speech to her, I thought that it would be cool if we could turn this a little bit, spin this into letter writing on Seesaw. So your job is to draft up a letter to Mrs. Bundon on why we need air conditioning in our school. So remember to write 3 or more sentences to try to convince her. So we want to put that reason, but then we want to say more. So if we go back, this was my example of my letter. Now we're not going to just take everything off of this, you guys. We want to brainstorm new ideas. So remember I said, if we go back, whoops, okay. If we look at our reasons, you can totally use more of these reasons to build your letter. So if you wanted to start with how we students and staff get distracted when it's very hot, which makes it hard to focus, you can turn that into your letter. You just got to explain why and tell us more so that you can convince Mrs. Bundon that this is a real issue and we need air conditioning. And if you can think of another one on your own, you can absolutely use that. Remember, we don't want to say because air conditioning would be awesome. You got to tell us why it's important and try to convince her. All right, have fun.